Hello? Cosimo? Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. You?
I'm good. I'm a little bit sick today. I have a cold.
It's not good.
Yeah, but I'll be fine. It's a good
In my
thing
class,
that we don't have to be in the same classroom. No one can catch my cold. And let's see, who else do we have here today? We've got Francisco. Hi, Francisco. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine, and you?
I'm okay. I was just telling Cosimo that I have a cold.
Ah,
A little bit sick today.
in, uh, in your face bring the sun.
Yes, I got my windows open to get some fresh air. And we've got a new student here with us today, too. We've got Natalia. Hi, Natalia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
And Natalia, where are you from?
I am from Spain,
Oh, okay. Which part of Spain?
from Galicia.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
I used to teach English there. I lived in Vigo.
Okay. Uh, mm, I living in. Mm, I was living in Santiago de Compostela,
Mm-hmm.
but now I am living in London.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's, because of that, I need to learn the language.
I see. That makes sense.
Yeah.
How long have you been living in London?
3 months,
Okay.
more or less, since January.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's time
Yeah.
to practice speaking English.
Yeah, it's a little difficult for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's more easy for me the English from US.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yes.
English UK is more difficult for me. Difficult. Yeah.
I agree. I sometimes don't know what they're saying, so I don't blame you. You'll get used to it though.
Sorry?
You'll become accustomed to it. You'll get used to it.
Yeah, it's the pronunciation is
Mm-hmm.
um, a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
uh,
You can
yeah,
just get accustomed to hearing English and it'll become easier with time.
yeah. I hope. I hope.
Well, thanks for joining my class. It's nice to see another person from Galicia.
Thank
Um,
you very much.
I have a lot of Spanish students, and that's pretty useful for me because I remember learning to speak Spanish in
Yeah,
in Vigo, and it was very challenging.
yeah. Vigo is a nice city, a nice place.
Eh.
No, it's more
I
beautiful Santiago, but
yes, I prefer
Vigo
Santiago de
have
Compostela.
a beautiful beautiful beach.
Yes, I like the
So,
beaches of Vigo, but the
yeah,
city not so much.
no,
You have to get outside of Vigo to see the real beauty.
yeah. Yes.
hmm Okay, and we've got a whole class here now. That's great. So, hi everyone. Let's see, we've got Adela. Hi Adela, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Maureen.
It's been a few days, and we've got Diego here with us. Hi Diego. And we've got, let's see, is it Aaron?
Hello.
Hi. Aaron, have you been in my class before?
I think one time,
Yeah, I think so too. Where are you from?
Mexico.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome back to my class.
You're welcome.
And we've got, is it Gabriel or Gabriel?
Hello, Gabriel. That is my name.
Gabriel? Okay.
Yes.
And remind me, where are you from, Gabriel?
I am from Chile.
Oh, okay. Great. And Elcio's back with us. Hi, Elcio. Are you there? Okay, well, you can turn on your microphone. There you are. Okay, and we've got Samuel here. Hi, Samuel.
Hi, Maureen. How are you?
I'm doing better. I was sick yesterday, so I apologize if any of you were signed up for my classes yesterday. I had to cancel them because I was a little bit under the weather. There's a good phrase for you if you don't know it.
Oh, I heard tick 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 tick.
Okay. I hid myself by accident. Pressed the wrong button. But yes, I was under the weather, which is a colloquial way of saying that I have a cold. I have a summer cold, but I'm feeling better today. So let's get started, shall we? Okay. So
What is your better today?
yes, I'm feeling better today. I was feeling sick yesterday, so today is much better. Yesterday I took a 4-hour nap.
Oh.
I'm feeling better though. So everyone, we're going to get started. Today's lesson is on prefixes in English. So prefixes and suffixes are two important word parts that's useful for learning new vocabulary. If you know what the prefix means, you can guess at the meaning of the word. So we're going to cover the prefixes. We're going to use them in sample sentences. And if we have time, we're going to try to have a little competition with them. Okay? So I'm going to turn on my screen share and share with you all an image of common prefixes in English. Okay, so can everyone see the document on my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. So let's see, we're going to take a look at this, and this is one of two documents that I have on the most common prefixes. And a prefix is the beginning part of a word. That thing that's added on to the beginning of a word that gives it either a different meaning or a more specific meaning. Okay, so can I get someone please read the first prefix? Maybe Adela, can you read the first prefix?
Yes. Anti.
Okay.
Against antifreeze.
Okay, so the prefix is anti, and also you can pronounce it anti, depending on the word. So can everyone repeat after me? Anti.
Anti.
Empty.
Empty.
Empty. Empty.
And anti.
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 Okay. Okay, I'm zooming in on the prefixes.
Okay.
Is that better?
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
That's much better. Yeah. Okay, so the example is the word antifreeze. So the funny thing is that they say the meaning is against, but it's not always against. It's usually the opposite of. Okay, so can anyone think of any other words that begin with this prefix anti?
Anti-system.
Can you type it into the chat, please? I can think of another one that's really useful when you go to the doctor if you're sick.
Antibiotic.
Yes, you can get an antibiotic. Okay. Oh, and Natalia says anticlimax. That's true. So the opposite of the climax, the highest point, is the anticlimax. I've never heard of an anti-system, but that's not to say that that's not a word.
This is a new word you don't use in Spain. People has against the system, the government in general.
I see.
The system about the globalization, etc.
Oh, okay. So they're anti the system. They're against the system. Very good. Yeah. Okay. maybe some of you, so the antivirus, yes, that's the treatment for a virus. Maybe some of you are very popular people and you have a lot of friends, but maybe some of you don't like to spend too much time with friends, and so you're antisocial. Have you heard this word before?
Yes.
Okay, Diego, I'm going to mute you because I hear some background noise, okay? All right. Antisocial, okay. Maybe you've heard of this old-fashioned word. Has anyone heard of the word antidote?
No.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so what's
Yes.
Farmer?
what's an antidote?
Against this is a drug.
Yes. It's used to treat something, specifically used to treat poison. Yeah, for health. So if you're poisoned, like you accidentally eat something that is poisonous, the doctor will give you the antidote, and that will
Like
cure
a
you.
snake.
Yes, the antidote to a snake bite. Okay, so let's hear some examples of, can I get a volunteer to come up with a sample sentence using a word that has the prefix anti, please? Natalia, do you want to try?
I try. I have a cold, so I need an antibiotic.
Good, good. I have a cold, so I need an antibiotic. Good. Thank you.
Thanks.
And why don't you also read the next line of most common prefixes, the prefix, the meaning, and the keyword.
Me, I
Yes.
will. Okay. The opposite, defrost.
Okay, so the prefix is D, the letters DE, and this is a very, very, very common prefix. I'm sure all of you who've been studying English have seen this prefix used on many words, and it means opposite. Just like when we were saying anti, it can mean the opposite of something. So to defrost something is to make it not be frozen anymore. Like when you put some food in the microwave to unfreeze it from being in the freezer. Okay, so what are some other words that start with this prefix, D? Okay, Diego says devalued. Very good. So not valued, or the opposite of valued is devalued. Very good. I've got a one for your coffee drinkers out there. How many of you have heard decaffeinated?
Yes.
Decaffeinated, okay.
Yes.
So the important thing to remember, just a note, is that not every word that begins with those letters is going to be with a prefix. Sometimes they are not separable. For example, the word decline.
Okay.
The word meaning may be, or the word depress, the word meaning is the whole unit of the word is decline or depress. It's not the opposite of cline. I wish it were the case that you could always assume that every word starting with DE is a prefix, but it's not. Just an important thing to know. But perhaps you can think of, if you're a computer programmer or you like to solve a puzzle, decode is another example. So you write the code. Let's see. Can we think of any other ones? Maybe one more example.
Deactivate.
Okay, perfect. Deactivate. Okay, so the opposite of activating. I don't believe that decolor is a word, but good try. Just gonna check to see if I can think of any other ones. Or like deflate. Maybe you that's the opposite of inflate, so there's an example. Okay, so can I get someone else to use an example of a word that has the prefix D in a sentence? Let's hear from, let's see, maybe Samuel, you could try to use D in a sentence, a D prefix in a sentence.
Deflate or other word.
Any word that you want that begins with the prefix D.
Oh, oof. I don't know a word.
Okay, well, let's say, let's go with...
Deflate, for example, in sentences.
Yeah, or how about try deactivate in a sentence? Can you try to use that one in a sentence?
Okay. In Spain, there are deflate because the price down.
Okay, so they're deflating. So there's deflation. Oh, that's an interesting word to use. Deflation is a really common word when you're talking about economics. Yeah. Deflation, unlike inflation. Okay, so the money is becoming less valuable. Deflation, good.
Can I try, teacher?
Of course, go ahead.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hi.
I came very late today. I will deploy a new system in my work.
Okay.
Next New Year. Is correct?
It is correct. However, we wouldn't say ploy, so it's not actually a word that has a prefix. Deploy is the whole meaning of the word. It's not that the case that there's ploy and then deploy, but you could say I will. That's kind of tough. Let me think about that for a second. This one's a little trickier because there are so many words in English that begin with DE, but that doesn't mean that those words are prefixes, meaning opposite. Go ahead, Adela?
Decalcification, for example.
Ooh. Okay. You want to use that in a sentence?
It's a big word.
My bones are, I go to the orthopedist, she say me, I have a descalcification.
Okay, so she told you. Remember, there's a difference between saying she said to me and she told me. She told me I have decalcification. Okay, good. And also the word detach, that is an example of a word that begins with DE, but it's not a prefix because there's no such thing as the word tatch. So try to ask yourself, does this have a meaning if I take the DE away, or does it not? And if you see a new word you don't know, and you see that DE at the beginning, chop that DE off, and imagine the word is standing on its own. For example, calcification. That's a really good example because that word means something on its own, but when you add DE in front of it, we know that that means the opposite. Yes, and Adela says, Adela, you know all these strange words, decapitation, okay? So there's no real such thing as capitation because we don't get our heads put on, but decapitation means our head gets cut off. And developed, again, what is the word if we took off DE?
I don't know.
It would be veloped.
I'm not really sure, but...
Yeah, so it would just be veloped, and that's not a word in English, but it still begins with DE. So just be aware that you can have a word that begins with DE that doesn't mean it's a prefix. Okay?
Okay.
And sometimes they can change too, like the word devolve. Okay? This is a prefix, but the word originally is evolve. So they add that D, and it means the opposite of evolving. The opposite of evolution is devolution.
Okay.
And
Okay.
about the word of Natalie, it's possible to change the envelope, the envelope.
No, you
No.
can't say
Okay.
de-envelope. You can say, I think you would say unenvelope, but I'm not sure we would use
Okay.
that.
It's not the. Okay.
Yeah, it's not D. Well, let's move on so we can talk about the other ones today and get some practice with more prefixes. And I wanted to welcome Laszlo to the group. Hi, Laszlo. Nice to see you again.
Hi, Maureen. Nice to see you too. How are you?
I'm feeling better. I had to cancel my classes because I was sick, but I'm feeling better today. Laszlo, could you read the third prefix and the meaning and the keyword, please? Starting, it's dis.
This does mean opposite of something.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
For example, disagree.
Okay, perfect. That's the key word, disagree. So this is the best example. This is similar to that DE prefix, but dis is almost always a prefix that means not that thing or the opposite of that thing. So and remember, it's not always the case that the word is a prefix word, for example, disappointed. It's not the same as the opposite of appointed. So just be careful of words like that. But here's another good example. Disappear. Okay? How many of you are familiar with the word disappear? Has anyone heard that word before? Disappear?
Yeah, I heard before. It means someone we can't found.
Mm-hmm. Someone we can't see them, we can't find them. So if they appear, then we can see them. They're right in front of us and they're visible to us.
Yeah.
If they disappear, then we can't see them. So what other words are there? I can think of quite a few of these. This is also a very common prefix. How about for anyone who's ever questioned something, you can disbelieve something. If you believe in ghosts, and then one day you decide you don't anymore, you disbelieve in the existence of ghosts. Disadvantage, very good. You want to type that in?
Discomfort, comfort.
Yes, perfect. Okay. So when you take off the dis of, and same thing when you take off the dis of discomfort or distrust, then you have comfort and trust. Disaffected, that has a slightly different meaning than affected, but we also have disadvantaged, which I think you said. Dismount, okay, when you get on a horse, you mount the horse. When you get off, you dismount. Very good. Okay. I misspelled that word. I'm sorry. There should be a D in there. Sorry. Ignore that. Disadvantage. Okay. Any other words? Maybe one or two more? Now, someone said decolored before, but the word is actually discolored. So there is a word that means the opposite of colored, and that would be discolored. Laszlo came up with that good, disabled or disability. So a person who is not able or doesn't have the ability to do something like walk. Another one is when you sign off from our lessons, you disconnect. First you connect to join our group, then you disconnect. Okay, so let's hear from someone new and see if they can do an example sentence. So maybe I could hear from, okay, so Natalia says discovered. That's a good one to show, a good example to show. Is the opposite of that the meaning the exact opposite. No. Discover is its own word meaning to find, but covered means a different thing. So that in that case, they are not opposites of each other.
Okay. I always choose the wrong. Go on.
That's okay. Don't worry. It's okay. It's a good chance for everyone to practice. LCS says disinformation, but that's not actually how we would use it. We would more often say misinformation. So hold on to that one for when we get to miss, which is coming up soon. But let's hear from Cosimo. Could you please use one of these dis words in a sentence, please?
This, I don't know.
You just try one. Anyone? Pick any of those words and try to use it in a sentence.
My internet is disconnect.
Okay, good. You could say my internet is disconnect, and if you're going to use it as an adjective, you have to say disconnected.
My internet is disconnected.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Let's hear from Francisco. Could you read our next prefix with the meaning and the keyword, please?
En cause to and code embrace.
Okay, very good. So N-E-N or M-E-M, it causes to. So cause to do something. So it creates a reaction of some kind. Okay? And their examples are encode or embrace. I can think of another one, enrich. If you have something that provides you with lots of money, it enriches you. Or it can mean that figuratively, like education enriches our lives. What else? What else? Okay.
Enroll? No.
Enroll, like in school. Uh-huh.
Okay.
And let's see.
Engage? No.
Well, engage is a good, yeah, employ is a good example. And engage is one of those words that still means, like, you can't gauge. Well, I guess you can gauge something. That one's kind of tricky. I'm on the fence about that. You can ensure something. Enlarge. Ooh, that's a perfect example. Okay, that's the best example I've heard so far. Okay, Laszlo, why don't you use that in a sentence, please?
I will enlarge my tree in my garden.
I will enlarge my tree in my garden, so make it cause to grow bigger. I might say that I enlarged, yeah, I enlarged the screen so everyone could see. I caused the image to be bigger. Okay, thank you. And let's see, so we can move on to the next one. Let's hear from Diego. Can you read the prefix, the next prefix, please?
Yes. I don't see the. Okay. Before, forecast.
Okay, so for as a prefix has the meaning of before. And what is a forecast? Do you know what a forecast is? That might be a new word for some of you.
The prediction of the weather.
Yes, exactly. It's the prediction of the weather, okay? So the prediction of the weather or the expectation for the weather. So the forecast is a good example of that. What other examples can we think of?
Forever.
Okay, forever. I think that one just has its own meaning that kind of stands alone. But you could say the foreground. Now might be a new word for some of you. If you're talking about a picture, you talk about what's in the background. Then you also talk about what's in the foreground, meaning what's before the background images. Okay, so if you've been in any of my classes where we're describing photos, I might have asked you, what do you see in the foreground? That means in the area before the background. Okay?
Okay.
Let's see if I can think of another one. If anyone else can think of another one. If you're interested in economics, you might have read an article on the foreclosure or to foreclose on a home. Lasso says forehand, but it would actually be beforehand. So we'll get to that one. And that's about it that I can think of.
Foreign, no.
No, I think foreign has its own meaning. That's not actually a prefix word. But you can also say, just like forecast, you can foresee something in the future, to predict something in the future. So you go to your psychic and you say, tell me what you foresee about my future. And then there's a really common term for books and movies called foreshadow. Has anyone heard this term before? Foreshadow?
No.
This is when a book, in a book or a movie, there's a sign of something that is to come. Say, for example, in a book, they are always mentioning death and always mentioning suicide, and then later on, one of the characters commits suicide. The earlier references were foreshadowing. Okay.
And foreman, no.
I don't think that one works because it doesn't mean before man. It's just a term for the main worker on a construction site.
Yes.
So let's see. Who have I not heard from yet? Maybe Gabrielle, you can use one of those words in a sentence, please.
What words?
Any of these words that begin with for. We've got forecast, foreground, forehand, foreclose.
Okay. The sales forecast is very bad for this quarter.
Oh, very good. The sales forecast is very bad for this quarter. So that would be from a business point of view. What they expect from the sales is not very good for this quarter. Thank you. Gabrielle, will you read the next prefix, please?
Okay. In, meaning in, keyword infield.
Okay, so the key word is infield. Okay, what other words? So it can mean in. Okay. And I think it also has some other meanings. But
Insecure?
because it can also mean the opposite. For example, you have someone who is active and then someone who is not active is inactive. Or that's another good example, inappropriate, insecure, someone who's not secure, intolerant, someone who's not tolerant. Okay? And let's see, what other ones can I find? Somebody's got a lot of background noise. I'm going to have to, I think it's you, Diego. Sorry, I have to mute you. That's better. Okay. What other words do we have? That's okay.
Impure?
Sorry?
Impure.
Impure, very good. You want to type that in? Can we think of any ones that start with I am that means something along those lines?
They know have purity. This is people has contaminate or.
That's true. There's a lot of these ones that
has been contaminated. But,
yeah.
Is this is a little religious in same context is religious, and another is possible to scientist.
That's true. It could be from a religious point of view or for a scientist. A scientist, like a chemist, wouldn't want to work with impure materials. So that also can have the meaning of opposite. Like this word, imperfect, meaning not perfect. It has flaws. Or what else? What else? How about this one? This is a pretty inaccessible. That's a good one. Okay. How about this one? Impossible. Okay, that one's a pretty common word. Impossible. So you have to be sure that the word, okay, it's actually impatient, but you're really close. So impatient is not a word in English, but impatient is, meaning the opposite of patient. They don't want to wait. Who considers themselves to be impatient?
Improve? Or, sorry.
Yeah, improve actually is one of those ones that doesn't mean the opposite of. So you can prove something, but then improve doesn't mean the opposite of prove. Although it seems like it should. It doesn't actually.
Imputation? No. It's a word.
I can think of another one. Inaccessible. So inside is not one of those words that means the opposite of side. It just has its own meaning that stands alone. So not every word that begins with IN is going to be a, no, that's a good one, insane. Okay, we've got plenty of examples for in and im, but who wants to use it in a sentence? Who have we not heard from yet? Maybe, let's see, Adela, will you give an example sentence, please?
My friend is impatient, is impatient because her wife is inside. He wait at door or at outside.
Okay.
This is very, very complicated.
Yes, yeah. That was. Do you want to repeat it for everyone, please?
No, I have another. This is impossible to improve my English because it's inaccessible. Inaccessible for me.
Okay, good. You used a few different ones there. You said it is impossible for me to improve my English because it is inaccessible to me. Well, not when you have the internet and not when you can go on Verbling, right? Okay, so can everyone still see the screen with the common prefixes? Is the screen share still on?
Sorry, is for me to read?
Yeah, go ahead. So
Okay.
we've already kind of covered this one, but
il, ir.
So they all mean
means not. Injustice, impossible.
So in this case, they're talking about those prefixes il and ir. And a really good example of this is the word irresponsible. So if you're responsible, then you do all of your work. If you're irresponsible, you don't do your work. So we could come up with some examples for that. But I think we should move on to the next prefix, inter. Okay? Let's see, who wants to read that one? Maybe Francisco, could you read the next? Oh, and then that's a good one, illegal. That's illegal. Yeah, it's 2 L's. Francisco, could you read the next prefix, inter?
Uh, yes, but what line I suppose I read?
The one that begins inter. This one.
Ah, yes. Prefix inter,
Mm-hmm.
meaning between, keyword interact.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So one thing before we go on to talking about that, this is a word, this word key, that I found is difficult for a lot of people to pronounce. So can everyone repeat after me? Key.
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 Mm-hmm.
Key.
Okay.
Key.
Now repeat after me. Keys.
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 Okay.
Keys.
Keys. Okay, so
Keys.
a key word is an important word. Okay, you want to imagine that it's spelled like this almost.
Yes.
Okay, so from here on out, you won't say K word because it's a key word. Okay? All right. So our key word is interact. Interact. Okay, there's plenty of words that begin with inter, but let's see what we can come up with together. Inter. Inter. Remember to check to see if they make sense by imagining the word without the prefix. And is it still a word? Does it still make sense? Okay, so with inter it should be pretty easy. We've got the, okay, so the internet, intermediate, interactive, very good. Interchange. Interchange is a word, but we probably more often would use the word exchange. Exchange. But we can talk about that one in a bit. Let's see. Interchangeable. You could change them between each other. Interstate, I like that. As interstate is the road that goes between two states, so you can drive between two states on the interstate. They don't really have interstates in Europe, do they? So yeah, it's intermittent. That's a good word. Intermittent. Does everyone know what that word means, intermittent? It means it happens from time to time. Internal. Okay, internal is one of those words that already has its own meaning. Interference is a good one. Sometimes you have interdependence between two countries or two people. Okay, so that's plenty of examples. Why don't we get someone to give us an example sentence? Let's hear from Samuel. Could you please try to use one of those words in a sentence, please?
Inter or mid?
Inter, please.
Oh, intermediate. I study English and my level is in intermediate.
Okay, perfect. So intermediate, the meaning is that you're between the levels. So intermediate is right there in the middle. Okay, and could you, international, okay. Don't forget that we spell in English, we spell international with a T, international, like that. Okay, and let's see. Elcio, could you read the next prefix, please?
Let me see. I can see the screen.
You can't see the screen?
Yeah. Yes. Mid.
Okay. And
Middle.
The meaning
Midway.
is middle. Okay, so an example is midway, but I can think of another really good example that I'm sure all of you have heard before. Oh, Adela beat me to it. I was going to say midnight. Yeah, she's very quick. And then also we have the phrase midday, although it's not very common to say midday. More people would use the word noon. But what else could we say There's another great word you might have heard if you're a fan of Shakespeare, and that's midsummer. Or if you've ever been to England, like maybe Natalia has traveled to the Midlands, which is an area in England.
Yeah.
The Midlands, okay, the area, lands that are in the middle of the country. And occasionally somebody will talk about the, okay, midweek.
Midweek.
Okay. And
Mid-game? No?
mid what?
Mid-game. In the middle of the game.
Yeah, you could talk about the mid-game. You can also use it as a prefix for lots of things. If, for example, you were interrupted, you could say, I was interrupted mid-conversation. And that would, you would put the dash between it, okay? Mid-conversation. Okay, so Natalia, will you try to use one of those in a sentence, please?
I have to go the work in the mid game.
Okay.
For example.
Okay, and can you read our next prefix, please?
Yes. Miss. The meaning is wrongly. The sample misfire.
Okay. Misfire.
Fire.
Misfire. So if you try to, if you're holding a gun and you accidentally fire, then you misfire the gun. There's also another common one. If you have any children, you know this word, misbehave. Okay? Misunderstand is a really good example. What was the one we used before that I said we'd say, oh yeah, misinformation? I think I told someone to hold on to that one. Misinformation. You can, this is a sad one, but if you are pregnant and you lose the baby, it's called a miscarriage. You are not able to carry the baby. You can miscalculate. Hopefully you don't do that if your job is to calculate the bills. What else? Which other words can we... There's... you can mishear something. So if you didn't understand what someone said, you could say, excuse me, I misheard you. Or if you didn't understand exactly what they said, or it's more common to use mishear if you heard the wrong thing. For example, if your mother tells you, come to lunch on Tuesday at 3 p.m., and you accidentally thought she said come to lunch on Thursday at 3 p.m., then you misheard her. Okay? And a common one for anyone who forgets things, can misplace something. You can put it in the wrong spot or lose something. I am always misplacing my umbrella. Okay? And if you are working on your English, you might misspell a word by spelling it incorrectly or wrongly. All right, I think we have enough examples for that one. Who have we not heard from in a while? Let's hear from Diego. Diego, could you please come up with an example sentence using one of these words?
With miss.
Yes.
I was misinformation because I didn't find the bus station.
Okay. In that case, you want to say either I was misinformed, because you're describing yourself using the adjective misinformed.
Okay.
Or you could be given misinformation.
I was given misinformation.
Yeah, I was given misinformation because I could not find the bus station or something like that. Right? Okay, thank you.
If you use this information means you don't have any information. But misinformation is you have information but it's wrong.
Exactly. Yes. If you use the information as misinformation, it's wrong. And a lot of people use this word misinformation to talk about journalists and the media that present a false story of a news story. It's misinformation. They try to mislead. There's another one. Mislead their viewers. Okay. And Adela, miscellaneous and LCO, mistake, those are words that they don't have a separate meaning if you take away the
It's a
miss
word, no?
part. Yeah, it's just the word standing on its own, miscellaneous.
Thank you.
So just think about, oh, is miscellaneous a word? I haven't heard that before, so it's not. Okay. All right, and let's see, Francisco, could you read the next prefix, please?
Yes. No. Not. And keyword. No sense.
Okay, very good. Not, and nonsense. Okay. What are some other words that we can think of that start with non? There's got to be quite a few. Let me see what I can come up with. Non. We use this word pretty frequently in English. Maybe you've seen some non-alcoholic beer.
Non-religious.
A non-religious person. Sometimes these prefixes come with a dash between them.
No speaker
Non-friendly.
English.
You could say that someone is a non-native speaker. A person would probably more likely be described as unfriendly.
Okay.
Natalia, I'd call someone unfriendly. A company can be a non-profit, or something that does not exist. Oh, that's a good one. Non-stop is non-existent. Okay.
Non-star.
There's nonsense, but I think we already covered that one. And then maybe if you don't smoke, you would like to sit in a non-smoker section on a train. A non-start. Okay, non-start. Non-start. I think that's kind of a slang word. It's kind of a made-up word. Non-toxic. That's a good example. Okay, why don't we get an example of that? Let's hear from Gabrielle. Can you please come up with a sample sentence using one of these non-words?
Okay, let me think.
Okay.
Non-toxic. The natural food is non-toxic.
Natural food is non-toxic. Very good. And let's hear another example, maybe from Laszlo. Can you give us another example using one of these non-words?
It's nonsense to build a big building for tomorrow.
Good. Okay, it's nonsense. It makes no sense. Okay? It does not have any sense. Okay? And how about the next one? Laszlo, can you read the next prefix, please?
The next prefix is over. Over something, for example, overlook.
Okay, overlook. So we can have the word overreact. Has anyone heard this? This is a really good key term in keyword in English, overreact. When you react too strongly to something, you overreact. And overweight. I was just thinking about how this word overreact is a word you'd never want to say to a woman, but it turns out there's an even better example, and that's the word overweight. Very good. If some place is full of people, you could call it overcrowded. You could say that if something, let's say you have a deadline and something is due, but then it passes the deadline, it becomes overdue. What else? How about a river? When it rains a lot, it can overflow. And if you take too many classes at university, then it's overload. And if you don't want to see something, you can overlook it. Let's say you have a problem and you don't want to deal with it, so you overlook it. Or overview. I don't think you can overclock something. There's a lot of things you can overdo, but overclock isn't one of them. Okay? Let's hear from, let's see, who have I not heard from? Cosimo, can you try to use over in a sentence? One of these over words. Overdose, yeah. Overcoat, true, yeah. The overcoat is the coat that goes over your regular coat. Okay. So, Cosimo, do you want to use an example?
My friend is dead for a overdose.
Oh, that's a sad example. But yeah, it's a good, grammatically correct example. My friend is dead from, you say from an overdose. Okay, an overdose on drugs.
Okay.
All right. You're welcome. And maybe let's hear from Natalia. Could you use an example of one of these overwords?
Let me think. I heard a bad news and I overreact.
Oh, okay. I heard some bad news and I overreacted. Okay, if it happened in the past.
Okay.
If it happened in the past, you say I overreacted.
Overreacted. Okay.
Good. Okay, and let's see if we can fit in one more before our time's up today. How about the next prefix? We have pre, okay? And so it's right there in the word, prefix, before. So what are some words that begin with pre? What can we think of here? Okay, so sometimes you can watch these lectures of mine that have been pre-recorded. They were recorded before. Or if you ordered something, you can say that it was prepaid, like a prepaid cell phone card. What else? Can prevent, recondition. So there's a word when you're talking about a condition that's predisposed. Okay, so pregnant is a different word. It doesn't. This is not a prefix word. But precaution's a good example. You're taking the caution beforehand. You're taking caution before something happens. So you're taking a precaution. Okay. What other ones are there? Well, let's try to use an example in our last minute here. So pre-preparation, or in movies, when you're doing movie production, you call it pre-production. The stuff. So sometimes, if any of you are interested in the movie field, they'll call it pre-pro, and that means pre-production, the stuff they have to do before the movie is made. Okay. Let's hear an example sentence. Let's hear from Adela. Could you give an example of one of these pre-words?
You need have precaution when you cross the street.
Very good. Okay. One thing I will say, which is just one of those funky prepositions, is we actually almost always will use the preposition take precaution. So you'll say, you have to, yes, exactly. Think of it the same way. Take care, take precaution. So you have to take precaution when crossing the street. Okay, and the other examples of prefixes, just to go over them really quickly before we wrap up today. There's re, which almost always means again. And this example, return, is not a good example because there's no turning involved. But you can review your notes, look at them again, review, view again. There's semi, which means half. And this is a good one to know because I did not know what this was for a long time. Semi, when they say semi-annual, I didn't know it meant twice a year, but a half circle is a semicircle. And then you have sub, which almost always means under. So submarine, under the ocean, okay? And Adele's got the example of restructure. So to take the structure and to develop it again. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope everyone learned something, got a chance to practice some of those prefixes. If you know the meaning of the prefix, it can help you figure out what the word means. If you see the word structure and then you see restructure, you can know that it means to structure something again. Or review, it means to view something again. Okay? All right, everyone, that's it for today's class. I'll have more classes this week, so I hope to see you then.
See
Okay,
you.
see you.
Mario.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
It's good to be back.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.